cultivating inner riches, Jupiter turns inward, expanding our understanding of faith, morality, and meaning. Welcome to Planet Earth, last quarter 2025. Eliane Nicole, your astrologer and tarot reader, here bringing you the planetary ingresses to help you surf these cosmic currents with awareness, grace, and alignment. In this video, I'm going to break down the astrology of Jupiter stationing retrograde in Cancer, what it means collectively, the symbolism of Jupiter in Cancer itself, what happens when Jupiter turns retrograde, and how this particular retrograde connects to the other major planetary configurations in the sky right now. We will also look at the key dates and aspects unfolding during this retrograde period and how this energy evolves through the continuing months and what it means for each of the 12 rising signs. Before we dive in, I would love your support in helping me grow this community. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and drop a like or a comment. It really helps me in the algorithm and allows me to continue offering these free astrology reports. I am on a mission to reach 1,000 subscribers by Thanksgiving, so don't be a jive turkey. Share this video with a friend who loves astrology or tarot. Every subscriber truly counts. Now, without further ado, let's get into the interpretation. Jupiter stationed to go retrograde, or stationed retrograde, November 11th at 8:41 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Jupiter governs expansion, wisdom, faith, morality, and meaning. He represents the universal principles that uphold natural law and cosmic order, the higher truth that our human legal and ethical system aspire to mirror. Jupiter magnifies whatever he touches. He brings cohesion, perspective, and growth. Whether that expansion reveals abundance or excess depends on how consciously we engage it. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, meaning he expresses his benevolence through empathy, protection, and intuitive intelligence. In Cancer, growth happens through emotional depth, family, roots, and the nourishment of belonging. This placement asks us to expand not outward into acquisition, but inward into care, to cultivate emotional security and spiritual wealth. When Jupiter turns retrograde, the energy of expansion reverses direction. The focus shifts from outer opportunity and material gain to inner reflection and integration. This 4-month retrograde invites us to examine where we have overextended, overconsumed, or overcommitted, and to reinvest in cultivating gratitude, wisdom, and peace within. It is a season for the renewal of faith and moral alignment. Jupiter stations retrograde at 25 degrees 9 minutes Cancer within the 3rd decan, a lunar Neptunian sector steeped in imagination, compassion, and psychic sensitivity. He also occupies the Venusian bound, infusing the retrograde with a desire for harmony, beauty, and emotional reconciliation. As Jupiter stations, he anchors one corner of a grand water trine with Saturn retrograde in Pisces and Black Moon Lilith. Grand water trines represent the free flow of energy within an element, in this case water, signifying intuition, creativity, healing, and emotional cohesion. Throughout the 4th quarter of 2025, these water trines have been dissolving rigidity, washing away emotional debris, and reconnecting us to the wisdom of feeling. Jupiter's participation magnifies those processes, expanding empathy, deepening reflection, and restoring faith in the unseen order that unites spirit, soul, and psyche. Black Moon Lilith trine Jupiter. Well, Lilith represents the raw, instinctual feminine, the untamed voice of autonomy and truth that will not be silenced. She embodies sexual sovereignty, creative power, and the wisdom of exile. Jupiter trining Lilith in Cancer magnifies and legitimizes that energy. It brings cohesion to what has been cast out, integrating the wild feminine back into the collective emotional body. It sanctifies the intuitive, the sensual, and the uncompromisingly honest parts of ourselves. Simultaneously, Jupiter forms a square to Eris conjunct Chiron in Aries, creating tension between belonging and independence. Eris, goddess of discord, speaks for those who have been excluded from the table, the marginalized, the inconvenient, the truth tellers. Her union with Chiron exposes wounds around inclusion, justice, and moral authority. Jupiter square magnifies those questions, urging us to expand our moral frameworks so they encompass everyone, not just those who mirror our comfort zones. This aspect pushes the collective towards authentic unity that honors difference rather than suppresses it. The grand water trines that began forming in late October and continue through November and December are not isolated events. They form an emotional and spiritual undercurrent running through the final months of 2025, a process of integration after years of fragmentation. Jupiter's retrograde in Cancer acts like a tuning fork for that current, harmonizing the emotional, spiritual, and moral dimensions of our collective story. Now, let's talk about key dates and aspects. On November 16th, the Sun in Scorpio trines Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, beginning a new grand water trine with Saturn, infusing the days that follow with insight and renewal. On November 22nd, Mercury retrograde in Scorpio trines Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, another grand water trine, Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter all retrograde, amplifying intuitive reflection and emotional processing. On November 26th, Venus in Scorpio trines Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, reactivating the trine just as Saturn stations direct, emphasizing mature love and relational healing. On December 6th through 7th, Mercury direct trines Jupiter retrograde with Saturn direct. Insight becomes application, putting faith into practice. On December 21st, Jupiter retrograde squares Chiron retrograde in Aries, revisiting themes of wounded confidence and moral courage, first felt in October. On January 9th through 14th, 2026, Venus, Sun, Mars, and Mercury in Capricorn all oppose Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. The Cancer-Capricorn polarity peaks. These are issues of family versus career life, your inner world versus your public profile. On February 15th through 22nd, Mercury and Venus in Pisces trine Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. This alignment inspires compassion, forgiveness, and renewal of faith. On March 5th through 8th, Sun and Mercury retrograde in Pisces trine Jupiter as he stations direct. This is the culmination of the retrograde cycle. Intuition becomes wisdom, and insight integrates into daily life. Jupiter will station direct on March 10th, 2026, and I will return with a full video for that turning point next year. So now for the rising sign overview. Let's look at how these Jupiter retrograde influences each of the 12 rising signs. Listen for your rising sign first, as it shows the area of life most affected by Jupiter's retrograde. Your sun sign will only feel this transit directly if it lies between 12 and 28 degrees Cancer or within those degrees of the other cardinal or water signs. This transit will be most personal for Cancer rising because it's in your first house, the most personal house of the wheel. It will be personal for Sagittarius and Pisces rising too, as Jupiter is your chart ruler who steers your life. So anything he's doing in the sky will always represent you. Also, people with any planetary placements from 12 to 28 degrees Cancer, Aries, Libra, Capricorn, Pisces, or Scorpio, you will be personally affected at some point during the course of the retrograde when he aspects your personal planet. And for anyone who has a cardinal rising sign, so if you are an Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn rising, this shift is happening in one of your angular houses, so it's likely to significantly aspect one of the key, most important areas of your life. So listen for your rising sign first, and that will describe where Jupiter is inviting reflection, faith, and emotional renewal in your chart. Aries rising, Jupiter stations in your 4th house. Jupiter retrograde moves through your home, family, and roots sector. You are invited to expand inward, redefining what security really means. This is a powerful time to reconnect with ancestry, emotional grounding, and what nurtures your sense of belonging. The square to Eris and Chiron in your own sign may highlight tensions between independence and vulnerability, reminding you that true strength includes softness. Taurus rising, Jupiter stations in your third house. Jupiter retraces his steps through your house of communication, learning, and community ties. This is a time for revising thought patterns and emotional language. You may revisit old writing, conversations, or sibling dynamics to find new understanding. The water trines to Saturn in your 11th house and Lilith in your 7th strengthen soulful connections and shared vision. Old allies or collaborators may reemerge with deeper resonance. Gemini rising, Jupiter stations in your 2nd house. This retrograde invites reflection on self-worth, finances, and what truly sustains you. It is less about accumulating and more about aligning material life with spiritual values. Jupiter here can bring opportunities to stabilize income through emotionally meaningful work. The trine to Saturn in your 10th house supports steady professional growth, but the square from Eris and Chiron in your 11th cautions against measuring success by external validation. Cancer rising, Jupiter stations in your 1st house. Jupiter is retracing his steps through your own sign, magnifying your personal story. This is a cycle of spiritual recalibration, redefining faith in yourself, your path, and your emotional truth. With Jupiter in a trine to Saturn in your 9th, there is mentorship or teaching energy available, while Lilith's involvement encourages embracing authenticity without apology. Be aware of overextension. Expansion begins within. Leo rising, 12th house. Inner life becomes fertile ground. Jupiter retrograde in your 12th house expands the unconscious realm, awakening dreams, intuition, and hidden creative reservoirs. You are guided to retreat, rest, and reconnect with spirit. The grand water trine weaves deep healing through private reflection, therapy, or solitude. This is divine gestation, the faith that grows unseen before the dawn. For Virgo rising, Jupiter stations in your 11th house. Old visions, friendships, and communities come back for review. Jupiter retrograde asks you to discern which collective dreams still resonate and which have outlived their purpose. The trine to Saturn in your 7th house brings opportunities for solidifying key partnerships, while Lilith's influence may highlight the need for authentic belonging circles where you can show your whole self without compromise. Libra rising, Jupiter stations in your 10th house. Jupiter is moving backward through your career and calling sector. This is a time to realign professional direction with heart and integrity. Recognition may come, but it must be grounded in purpose. The trine to Saturn in your 6th house supports sustainable routines and work structures, while the square from Eris and Chiron in your 7th reveals where imbalance or inequality in relationships affects your public life. Scorpio rising, Jupiter stations in your 9th house. Jupiter retrograde revisits your philosophical and spiritual worldview. It is a deeper period of faith realignment, perhaps questioning mentors, teachings, or belief systems. Travel may be internal rather than external. With Saturn trining from your 5th house, creative or romantic expression becomes a channel for wisdom. Lilith adds an element of mystical rebellion. Your truth may not conform, and that is its magic. Sagittarius rising, Jupiter stations in your 8th house. Jupiter, your ruling planet, retrogrades through your 8th house of intimacy, shared resources, and transformation. This is a time to renegotiate energetic exchanges emotionally, financially, and sexually. The trine to Saturn in your 4th supports grounding and emotional security, while the square from Eris and Chiron in your 5th stirs old wounds around creative confidence and vulnerability in love. The deeper you go, the more empowerment you reclaim. Capricorn rising, Jupiter stations in your 7th house. Relationships become the mirror for your growth. Jupiter retrograde in your partnership sector asks, how can emotional honesty strengthen your bonds? Some may reconnect with past partners or heal long-standing dynamics. Saturn's trine from your third house helps with mature communication, while Lilith's involvement reminds you that healthy relationships honor autonomy. The oppositions from your Capricorn planets later in the retrograde make this a defining chapter in self versus other balance. Aquarius rising Jupiter stations in your sixth house. This retrograde focuses on health, work, and service. You are called to cultivate faith in your daily rhythm, trusting that small acts of care and consistency yield spiritual dividends. Jupiter's trine to Saturn in your second house brings the chance to stabilize finances through consistent effort, while Lilith's influence encourages honoring your body's intuitive wisdom. Work must feed your soul, not drain it. For Pisces rising, Jupiter stations in your fifth house. Jupiter retrograde lights up your creative and romantic life. Old projects, passions, or love stories may resurface for deeper meaning. This is a fertile time for artistic healing and reconnecting with joy as a spiritual practice. The trine to Saturn in your first house grounds self-expression and maturity, while Lilith's role amplifies creative truth without censorship. Let inspiration flow from the heart, not from expectation. For the more detailed rising sign by sign breakdown, subscribe to my Substack, Keys to the Cosmos, where I go deeper into each rising sign and how these transits uniquely show up for you. And the best way to get the most personal insights into how these transits interact with your chart is to book a one-on-one reading with me at eliannicole.com. The link is in the description box below. Thank you for joining me. In conclusion, life is lifing. The world is worlding. Stay heavily meditated, my friends.